Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett and I'm the founder and owner of TechViews Nope, and today I am going to answer a quick question, and this question came in and it's basically saying, what is the difference between the bands on Wi-Fi routers, so like dual bands, tri-bands, things like that, or just a single band? And one thing that you might be noticing more and more if you're out there shopping for Wi-Fi routers is you're going to probably see more and more dual bands and tri-bands coming out. And tri-bands is more than less. It's been out. We got well more than tri-bands. But tri-bands is pretty much more newer for home use. And I can imagine sooner than later you're probably going to start seeing quad bands also. But anyways, what is the difference and how would it affect your purchasing experience? Now, before I get into that, let's get into a quick advertisement, and that way you guys know how to support the TechViews Nope channel, and you can help it grow a lot better and quicker and faster than I can ever do it myself. If you would like to support us at TechViews Nope, then please do one or all of the following. What you can do is you can select the TechViews Nope logo at the top, and this will take you to our TechViews Nope YouTube page. Or you can select the PayPal button, and that will take you to our PayPal donation page. Or you can select the Patreon campaign button, and that'll take you to our Patreon campaign. Now, saying that if you don't have the financial means, or you already done that, or whatever it may be, and you don't want to do that, but you still want to support us, you can also do some of the following. You can leave a like and share this video and any other video that you want from us, and maybe even our channel, and tell people why you like us so other people could come and enjoy this and also help build up this community. You can also, if you like to help us but you dislike a certain video for whatever reason, go ahead and leave a dislike, but tell us what you don't like about it so we can fix it in the future. And also, as always, please feel free to subscribe and check out our other videos. And when you're checking out our videos, if you really want to support us, just go ahead and drop the ad blockers, and that way we can get our revenue. But if you want to continue to use your ad blockers, then feel free to do so. It's not like I'm not doing it. Welcome back. Now, real quick, this is going to be a consumer guide. This is going to be on the lighter end on things to make things quicker and easier for people to understand. So if you are going to make a router work for a router company or something like that, this might be a little bit light for you. It might be still a good choice if you're going to buy one for whatever reasons, but this is mostly meant for home use and small business. Major businesses, they're on a totally separate thing. I mean, you got quite a bit of money going into this. And so as far as things goes, let's jump on in. Now, what I have here is an illustration of the bands. Bands is, just think of it as radio signals. You can't see radio signals, so I got to put something down so you can see it. So as far as what we have here, we have 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, and another 5 gigahertz. Each one of these is a band. So what happens if you got two of them? That's a dual band. It doesn't matter if it's 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, if it's those two, or a 5 and a 5, which I don't really ever see, and that would be also considered as another band. 3 of these are obviously tri, and this is actually what you're going to see more than not, is it 2.4, 5, and 5. If it's a tri, if it's a dual, it's usually a 2.4 and 5. What is the numbers about? Just keep this in mind. The 2.4 gigahertz, and and one thing to keep in mind, don't look for any other numbers because they're not out yet. It has to deal with the legal system, so I'm not going to get into that, but right now just look for 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. So 2.4 is slower, and 5 is faster. That's all you really need to know. 2.4, however, the one thing to keep in mind is there's bottlenecks, and 2.4 can also equal to the same amount as 5. And what I mean by that is if you got a slow internet, then 2.4 and 5 will get you the same results. However, if you got pretty good internet, then you're going to definitely notice a difference. So as far as the 2.4 gigahertz, you're going to see that mostly for most devices today. It's January 2015. Believe it or not, most devices today are 2.4 gigahertz. But some devices have 5 gigahertz. You're going to see this more and more. So I'll focus more on the 5 gigahertz stuff, and make sure that you have a router that whatever you're looking at has 2.4. Somewhere one of the bands has 2.4, and that way you can still use legacy devices as time passes. But a lot of the newer devices, the upcoming devices, they have 5 gigahertz. Now, fortunately, even today, you still got to specify with some computers if it has 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz. Usually it's 2.4 by default. And that's a very important thing to note, is computers shipped out today, made last week, ship out today, things like that, shipping out with 2.4. Brand new, top of line, everything there. Very important to know that, because for the most part, 5 gigahertz, it's like IPv6. You got all these enthusiastic people saying it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. No, it's not. At least right now, it's definitely not. Over 100 years, possibly, but not anytime soon. So, as far as that goes, just keep in mind 2.4 is probably your one or more important bands. So, one of the other things is you might notice that we got 2 5s. You also might see on some 2 4s, to 2.4s. And you might be asking yourself, well, what's the point of that? More is better in some cases, probably not in this. Well, it is in this case, depending on your scenario. So, most people don't realize this. They think that you can add more and more devices to a Wi-Fi with no problem. It's kind of like an unlimited thing, kind of like breathing. But as far as that goes, it's not the case, because most devices have some pretty low limitation. There's devices that have a 12 device limitation. There's some devices that have, on mine, I got a Nighthawk in R7000, and it's still being sold for a lot more money than what I got for it, and I paid full price for it, and it's still one of the top, and it has 32 device limitations. So, and you can find yours by going to the manufacturer site and either emailing them or looking for specifications manual or something like that, or search it, and you'll probably find it somewhere. But on mine, per band, it's a 32 device limitation. So that means I can have, and this is a recommendation a maximum limitation. You can go beyond that, fine. But if you go beyond that, you're going to start noticing some major problems. Some of the problems include timing out. So what happens is with Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi can only talk to one device at a time. If it's talking to my phone, it's not talking to my computer, even though it's a split of a second. so many devices over time, over a short period of time, adds up. So you're going to start noticing some major lag, and it might actually time out in some areas. So that's pretty important to note. But as far as things goes, the device limitation, in case for those of you who are confused about it. So with mine, I have a 32 device limitation per band. So 32 limitation for 2.4, 32 for 5, and I only got a dual band on mine. And if I had tried, then it'd be 32 on the glass. So I can have 32 on this, 32 on that, and I will be within the recommendations. But if I had, say, 33 in here, that's outside the recommendations. Now, you're probably not going to notice pretty much any difference with some small number like that. But once you get more and more, once you get like 40, where I got a 32 limitation, if you go in 40, 50, something like that, you're probably going to start noticing major changes, major timeouts, things like that. And that's a huge no-no. So that's another reason why you want multiple bands, and that's a huge thing. Now, why wouldn't you want multiple bands? You will want multiple bands pretty much always with 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz. That way your device doesn't go outdated. But as far as having multiple bands of the same type, that can be it takes electricity. It takes electricity to push the signal out. It takes electricity for all the stuff. Just so to save a little bit of electricity, you can go ahead and just knock whatever you don't need out, and that way it's not broadcasting. That way it's off, and it's saving a little bit. It probably ain't going to be much, but still, it's better than nothing. Another is jamming. The more devices, the more signals you have in a given area. That's say for example, if I got a signal, I don't know, let's say signal X, and then another signal X. If I try to listen to signal X and it has like a 10% boost, an actual range or power out, then I got another one that has like say 200% going out. The 200% is actually going to jam the other, so you can actually run into some jamming problems if you got too many. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you got things right, you don't have to worry about that at all, because hotels tend to have multiple bands, a lot of bands, and a lot of workplaces tend to have quite a few bands. So that's very important to note also. But for home use, if you're just the average person, you're probably going to be best with sticking to 3 at max. Maybe 4 if needed, but 3 at max. So that's very important. Now, as far as devices, not all devices are equal. Some devices, one thing I want to add in here before we move on. So 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, the way to image that, maybe it'll help you, is image it like a highway. So there is a speed limit. So the 2.4 is obviously slower. So image it as back roads. 5 gigahertz, image it as a highway. Well, there's a speed limit at all these places, but the more congested the road is, the slower things can be to stop. And and that's very important to note. Where 5 gigahertz, the 2.4 gigahertz, it takes less to congest it. 5 gigahertz takes more, but in either case, the more you got going on there, the more congested it is, the more you're going to go to the stop, to the last, the faster you can get up to that speed limit, and you can't go past that speed limit. So that's very important to realize. There is a speed limit to it. There is also congestive problems. So the devices, real quick, how can you tell what if your device supports one over the other? Well, for most part, mobile phones, mobile devices, tablets, phones, whatever, check the specification list and that will tell you right there and then. But for other devices, what I'll advise, because you can pretty much add Wi-Fi cards to some computers and stuff, go to the device manager. See if I can find it. That's if you're on Windows. If you're on something else, then you probably got you do have some equivalent. So as far as this goes, just go to wherever your stuff is, and it'll show you your devices that are connected, and search for the stuff in Google. So if I was to do it, I'll search for that, and then search for that, and that'll tell me if either one of those is. I got two Wi-Fi cards. If either one of those is 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz. And there's other ways to figure it out, but that's a sure way. There's just literally no room for error right there. I mean, unless you type the name in wrong, that's the only way you got a room for error. So that's pretty important to note, is just look at the device, and that'll tell you right then and there if it's 2.4 or 5 gigahertz and the limitations and stuff like that. Also, on some Wi-Fi cards, they have if it's 2.4 or 5 gigahertz, so that's also pretty important. And the other way is if you do have a router that has dual band of 5 gigahertz and 2.4, go ahead and enable them both so you can see them, and name them something different, and go ahead and have them where they are they are basically showing. So if you don't see it, then you can't support it. That's also another way. In fact, most devices you can take a look at that and see, oh, I don't see 5 gigahertz. This device don't support it. It's very important to note that, because that's also a good way to see, because if your device can't see it, then again, it can't support it. So lastly, let's talk about the bottleneck, and then let's head off. The bottleneck is within, again, the device being congested with the other stuff. Oh, and devices can talk to one another across bands, so keep that in mind. On some routers, that's not the case, but most of them you can do that. So that's also something important to note. But devices can congest things. That's a bottleneck right there. The slowest device on the band makes the band go to that speed. So let's say if I got a 10 megabyte device and a gigabyte device, the band is going to go down to the 10 megabyte device, even though I got a gigabyte device. The reason why is, well, it's physics. If you got a gigabyte information coming across, the thing can only read 10 megabytes. Well, guess what's going to happen? That thing's going to miss a bunch of information, and it can't take it. It can't catch it if it's still processing. So it's very, very important to note that the thing will slow down to whatever the slowest device is. You will notice a dramatic change when you take away some devices or add some others because of this particular one. In fact, I'm having an issue currently with my security camera setup because of that particular issue. But also keep in mind is something like that I just mentioned. It's 2.4 gigahertz cameras, but the problem is right now everything is on 2.4 gigahertz. Over time, when things go into 5 gigahertz, if they still stay on 2.4 gigahertz, because we're dealing with a band with bottleneck, a band with limitation, then I can just put them on 2.4 gigahertz and don't have to worry about my other devices slowing down. It's very important to note that also. So you got a limitation there. You also got that limitation with the amount of devices. And lastly, this is probably the biggest limitation. It's the stuff going out. the internet. And if you got 10 megabyte internet and you got a gigabit ability for the pretty much the router to get to your computer, well, guess what's going to happen? It's going to get down to the slowest one, which is whatever the internet is. So that's also another thing to keep in mind, and keep that in mind when you're buying. But also keep in mind that you can future-proof your stuff if your router has a repeater on it, so ability to make it a repeater. A lot of newer Netgear routers have that. Then what you can do is, as you buy new routers in the future, you can save the old router and use it as a repeater. Repeaters cost about $100. Routers cost, in fact, mine costs today 200 and something, 230 something, I think, 250. And basically with that in mind, what you have is a router where I can actually add something to it in the future, how many years, and use what I currently have as a repeater to boost the signal out and do everything else. Very, very important to realize. Now, how do you get around some of this bottleneck, especially with the internet? One thing to keep in mind with the bottleneck with the internet is the throttling. So one thing that's happening in the United States, unfortunately, until the United States government seeks the internet as being a utility, like water, electricity, and so on. Well, a lot of people say, well, you need water. Well, yes, that's true, but you also need electricity, and you don't need that to live off of. So right now, we do need internet. A lot of people need internet because a job, to research, for school, whatever it may be. And it's getting more and more prevalent that we need internet. It's just another utility, kind of like phones. And until the government realizes it as a utility, which hopefully will happen sooner than later, we got restrictions. The internet companies are able to slow down the internet. They don't like it's going to a particular site. They can slow it down legally, and there's nothing we can say. And sometimes we can't even really tell, because guess who gets to say, who's throttling it, or if it's just weather. So you'll find out a lot. So a way around that is VPNs. So, for example, a lot of these internet companies, they like to throttle things like Netflix, and they say that Netflix takes about a gigabyte of connection per user, a gigabyte per second, and they don't even serve a gigabyte per second in pretty much any place publicly. So while they're able to get away with it, it sounds reasonable, because people think of it. I downloaded a movie, it's a gigabyte. Movie, people don't really think about that you download as you go, so you're really doing it by per second overall. And there's been studies, quite a few studies, I've done it myself too, at Netflix. It's for 1080, it's 8 megabytes per second. So, 8 megabytes per second. So it's nowhere near that gigabyte that internet companies are talking about. But because they're able to get away with it, this time they're able to throttle it. So what you can do is use a VPN, virtual private internet, or virtual private network. And virtual private internet is one I use, the VPN. And what you can do is just use that. The internet company won't be able to see what you're going to, because your traffic will be encrypted, and they won't know to throttle it or not. Now, there's two bad things about that, actually three. The first is NSA. They've been triggering some stuff where once someone uses a VPN, even a work VPN, they start monitoring it for whatever reason. The second is, and this is coming straight from NSA, people not agreeing with what they're doing, is working there. It says, I don't agree with this. We're going to leak this. I'm not losing my job, so it's anonymous. Or some people who are willing to lose their job over right or wrong actually leak some of the stuff. So there's that. Some internet companies, they throttle the internet if you're using a VPN, even a work VPN. And lastly, the stuff does slow you down overall if you got pretty good internet overall, because you're at the mercy of, well, delay for one, and two, you're at the mercy of the VPN servers, what internet speed they're at, and they can provide. So it's very, very important to note that that's some workarounds and that's some actual bottlenecks. Now, as far as things goes, if you got any questions, feel free to leave in the comment section, and I'll try and answer as quickly as possible. If you got any comments, go ahead and leave that too. If you like this, then please leave a like, please subscribe, and please share. If you didn't like it, go ahead and leave a dislike, but also tell me why so I can fix it in future videos. And again, this has been Craig Bennett, founder and owner of TechViews, and hope you have a great day.